I don't think that he could have done what I think they're doing, which is to take down the deep state and to restore our republic to what we thought it was, and to usher in a brand new financial system. I'm hoping and praying that the med beds or something, and to heal people and to bring out hidden technology. I don't think that they could do that in just 8 years. I think they needed more years to do it. What
Yeah,
do you
I,
think?
I totally agree because the day he comes in, he's got hundreds of executive orders, and there's classified executive orders we haven't even seen. And
Oh,
so
really?
signing hundreds and hundreds of on the first day.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Accountability News. I'm your host, Lisa Michaels. I've been reporting the unreported news since 2007. You've never heard of me because the information that I am imparting is so anti to the establishment and the people who are running the platforms, YouTube, even Rumble, I'm having problems with. They don't want you to know the information that I've been posting since 2009 on my blog, conservativelisa.blogspot.com. And to Rumble now, I only post on Rumble. I do a little bit on YouTube, but I'm so afraid. I've got hundreds of videos going way back, covering election fraud, covering the Benghazi and the aftermath, the takedown of SEAL Team 6, all the things I've been reporting on because there's just so much corruption. But now it's all coming out. It's all great. And one of the best people to expose all the corruption, to expose what's really going on behind the scenes. I am proud and so happy to have as my guest again tonight, the one, the only Gene
Uh,
Decode.
Thank you, Lisa. Nice to be back.
You were coming off with some fabulous points, so why don't you take it away with that?
Yeah, so, it's basic that the narrative, is always in these things, whether it's the JFK assassination, RFK, even Lincoln, the Butler situation in Pennsylvania with Trump, and now with this, don't fit the people, look at them, what they're saying. If you look at what they're saying happened and you look at what, none of it fits to being able to actually work. Let's put it that way. So you say a 30-06 is what they said was the shooter used. Well, that kind of bullet, and they said the bullet bounced off his spine or something. I mean, it would tear his, it would tear a head off almost. It's a very powerful weapon. It was used in wartime to pierce armor, body armor and those things. So it can bring down an elephant. Let's put it that way. So a few shots, but still. And so if you look at that doesn't fit. Plus, if you look at where he was shooting, stated he was shooting from, he doesn't have line of sight to see Charlie at all. There's a pavilion and the kind of like a tent thing, and it's going down so that where he is on that roof, he can't see underneath it to get a shot at all, let alone a clean shot. That's the next problem. There's all kinds of drones flying, military drones at high speed. Then nobody's trying to stop the bleeding. Then there's later, as soon as he's rushed out of there, they take him not to the nearest hospital, but to one further away that had, now people have come out that all kinds of overseas people from many countries were researching the hospital, the doctors, months before and weeks before he was going there. And then it's the same thing with the gentleman in Butler. It's like all of his social media stuff has been cleared out, and now this stuff with you know, all kinds of different involvements of things of what his wife is involved in or not. It's hard to say. Her parents, the power of her family lineage, it's all very, very interesting. And then the fact that it looks like the what was thought to be a camera behind him seems to have been a holographic projector. So there's that too. So there's so many things that just don't match up. You know, I'll go with the fact that he may have been killed earlier, or he may be in witness protection. As I said with all the other ones, we're never probably going to really know what really happened. I do know it's created a wonderful movement of Christianity around the world, so I'm going to honor that legacy of his. And all the other stuff, this and that, on and on and on and on, is co-productive. So that's what I have to say about that.
I just want to add that I did speak with Derek Johnson a few days after the assassination, and he immediately said several things that really blew my mind. He said that he ran it through the video through Chat GPT and found that it was AI created, or it was a hologram or whatever they do. And they apparently you have to have like a that square canopy that he was under was just like perfectly sized. There was a tunnel underneath the table that all of a sudden was there and then had to be removed. Um, and then the big thing that really made me really want to talk to Derek right away was he posted that evening three screenshots of books entitled, that were some variation of thereof of the book on the assassination of Charlie Kirk. It was one of them was posted as a book to be able to be sold the day before he was murdered, and the other two were that day. So how can somebody have the all the information about the murder of Charlie Kirk before it even happens? I mean, it's just all
Yeah, same
crazy.
thing. Like, they weren't just researching the hospital; they're researching the doctors, the people who are going to do the autopsies, the shooter, all kinds of things. So beforehand,
Oh,
and
and then
then
at the hand movements of those guys that were supposed to be part of his security, and then his right hand guy gets on the phone and doesn't even like immediately go over to see him, and they're all acting like they knew it was coming, and this was an operation they needed to complete. And Candace Owens has been pretty on top of stuff. She doesn't seem to have run the video through Chat GPT like Derek has to see that it's AI, but the wonderful, articulate, and such a big supporter of everything that are trying to restore our country to what it's supposed to have been before these evil, profit-minded people took over. He's been taken off the chessboard, and he's now out of the picture because once even if people get put in witness protection program, and I do believe, and I think I want to get your take on this, that there's going to, when this is all said and done, we're going to find out people that we think have been dead for years are alive, and we're going to find out people who we think have been alive for years have been dead for years.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and when you've got some, if you want to put somebody in witness protection, or if you have to assassinate somebody in front a public person in broad daylight in front of a lot of people, like they did with JFK, like they did with well, this wasn't broad daylight, but in that theater with Lincoln, and they tried to do with Trump, because otherwise they have lookalikes, they have masks like with Mission Impossible movies that are so good you can't tell that you're not talking to the person you think you're talking to. This is the most complicated psyop. No, it's a war we're in, isn't it? Talk about the war that we're in.
Yes. So yeah, definitely complicated and confusing. And so, like I said, I'll just accept the legacy. And if the truth ever comes out, yay. If it doesn't, I've got so much other things to do. It's counterproductive. I said co-productive. I meant counterproductive to what's going on. There's so many things happening that I can't just keep chasing any one single news topic on and on and on and on. I've got too much to do.
What do you
So
think's the most important one right now that people need to know about?
I would say, the situation with the illegals in the U.S. and the fake climate change, that's the two pillars the globalists use to destroy countries. They bring in so many people that are given the ability to vote and take up all the medical resources of the country and all the social programs so that it destroys the country, and they have a huge voting bloc. The Democrats have done that, I mean, forever. Back before the Soviet Union, they did pogroms in Russia to bring over massive amounts of migrants into the U.S. And so to get a voting bloc. This is something they have done for since the beginning of the United States, darn near, where they cause pogroms in different countries, destabilize countries, do a lot of killing, and then the people flee the country to the United States so they can get a free handout and all this and a hand up. And then they can promise them all this stuff, and then they get a big, huge voting bloc because those people know that's the hand that feeds, so they vote for those people without really knowing what they're voting for. So now it's being revealed, like Trump has said, and a lot of people, people that I really like to follow, don't understand what's going on. Like Trump, it keeps flip-flopping back and forth because we're at war, and he has to fool the greatest liar of all times. He has to deceive the great deceiver, Satan himself. So and his minions on earth, and so he has to keep them not understanding where he's coming from. Like with Ukraine, it's on, it's off, it's on, it's off. We have a peace deal. It looks really promising. Nope. I'm very disappointed with Putin. Putin and I are really good friends. It's on and on. People like I just don't know anymore. And the same thing now. It's starting with the med beds, and that's something where he posted first very short and pulled it, and then a little bit longer and pulled it. On Truth Social. And so that's how you precondition somebody. That's not flip-flopping. That's preconditioning people for something. And that causes the cartels, the big, huge medical cartels, big pharma, all of that, and the stocks to go absolutely insane. They go, it affects them badly because if that technology comes out, who needs what they're peddling? From most of their stuff that's just poisonous chemicals and stuff that treats symptoms and creates symptoms that need more treatment and more of this, and on and on and on. So this is, the big thing is lock down the border. And now with the Supreme Court over and over backing them up with, now they've said he has the right to use the Alien Enemies Act, I think it is, if I'm remembering the term correctly. Probably not, but whatever it is, from way, it's hundreds plus years ago. So now that that's occurring, and the Supreme Court has backed him up with that, that means, and he's already declared, he's looking at declaring more, but he's already declared, what is it?
Tren de Agua?
Yeah, Trendiagua. Is it Trendiagua?
Trends Day.
No, it's Antifa as a
Antifa. They
yeah.
need to do, I think, well, that one's a foreign one, so they can do that. But
Yeah, but
Antifa is
it's a terrorist organization. So he's going to go through, I'm sure, going to go to Trendiagua and Sonora and quite a few others. And, with the what's happening in Mexico with Sheinbaum, and, they're pretty much, she's in hiding in a dump now. So they had to get her out.
I didn't know that.
Yep, they had to get her out. The people stormed, they had big, huge metal plates around the Capitol, and they tore it down and they stormed it. And because thousands, across the borderlands and even deeper into Mexico and even into Mexico City, the cartels are at war because they can't get into the U.S. to do what they're doing with the drugs and the human trafficking. Now they're fighting amongst each other for territory in Mexico.
First of all, they killed most of her opposing candidates when she was running. And I heard recently that they killed somebody else who was like a prominent person in Mexico.
They're killing a lot of mayors all over Mexico.
That's it, the mayors. That's what it is.
Yeah, there's thousands of people being killed. So the people are extremely upset. So she's now in hiding in a dome, and it's utter chaos. And she had already asked Trump and the alliance, which they have, brought in some trained in Colorado and other parts of hard, terrain in the deserts areas of the United States to go into Mexico, special forces, and they're already doing operations to help stabilize the situation. But it's getting way explosive now, so they're going after things as fast as they can. But the speed at which things are developing is massive. So we'll see where it goes. But
Are we essentially kind of at war with an undeclared war with Mexico right now?
with the cartels, not with
The
just
cartels in
yeah.
Mexico, which the cartels run Mexico, from what I heard. Is that not true? Or had they run
Yeah,
it for
pretty
several years?
much they run it. Alien Enemies Act of 1798 was the one I was trying to think of. And they've said yes, so he is now quickly shipping some of these really nasty people straight to El Salvador for their maximum security prisons there. And so it's really, the thing to pay attention to. People don't understand his stance with Epstein and the Epstein files. It has to look like the people demanded it, not that he brought it out and said, okay, they're released, and they said, well, you want to do the Streisand effect. Don't look here, don't look this, don't look that. So that then that and so we see with the vote. I mean, there was one dissenting vote, one. I wonder who the one was, but it was like 474 something to one. And so everybody's like, the Dems, he must have something to hide, so we need to. And he's saying, he said with the Saudi prince there, the leader of Saudi Arabia, that
Who he saved his life
yeah,
in
he saved
Las
his life,
Vegas.
but he said that the Clintons are on there and all these other people on there. I didn't go to the island, and I don't. The guy was, threw him out of, which is true, out of Mar-a-Lago. He's a pervert or something like that. And so, this is now what he wanted to have happen and what they need to have happen in the alliance is for the people to demand it. So it is organic, not that it was just given as a handout to you. They're tired of having handouts. So when the people demand things, it makes it more real. And so,
People are paying attention. That's the big thing. He
yeah,
does things to get people to pay attention. Like he hired a whole bunch of cabal people again in this second term, I think, to highlight him first, then take them down. Highlight them, take them down. Like
yeah,
he did with the guy who tried Epstein the first time. He got taken out of his administration, but it's such a perfect thing to do because who's going to say no to being a cabinet member in the president's cabinet? You'd look like an idiot. Well, but if you do take it, then shoot, well, what do I do? Because I'm kind of working with the other side. But you have to take it, right? And you better
yeah.
behave yourself because if you don't, then he's going to take you out. But if you don't stay loyal to your bad people that you were already with in the first place, then you could get taken out. And so it's just like they're in a frying pan.
To keep people not knowing where he's going. And I do like how he stands up to the press, like with the prince there, this lady uh, reporter, or whatever you want to call them. He said, "You're a terrible person. You act very angry, and they get you wound up. And your agency is fake news. And you come in and you ask the prince, something that's very insulting in the way you could have asked it nicely, but you don't. And it's nice to have a president that stands up and says it how it is, lets people know, because before Trump, people didn't know the news was fake. They did. I was telling people, but I'm not a president. So people were like, yeah, right. They own all the news. Because
Yeah.
I said, they go, how could they control all the news? Because they own it all. Yeah, right. And so, there's that. And then to understand, like the 17 said, Israel is for last, and what that means and what is going on and where that is focused at. What's in Israel, that's if you go to the book of Enoch, there's just very slight mention in the book of Genesis that the sons uh, of God, in other
Hmm.
words, the fallen angelics found human women very beautiful and mated with, came down to earth and had children with them. And so that's
And the
another,
children were the mighty men, the men of renowned. So those were
yeah,
the giants.
yeah. And Christ said that he rejects them totally. They can't come to him because they're the seed of Satan,
Hmm.
directly of the reptile, in other words. And in Enoch, they're shown to be capable of shape shifting and all kinds of things. And so that's
Really? In
actually,
the book of Enoch, it says that?
yes.
Oh, I gotta re-listen to that. I don't read anymore. To listen to read audiobooks. But yeah, I don't remember that. But that is obviously one of the many reasons that they took the Constantine and his group of ex-pagans who just all of a sudden Shazam decided to be Christian, took out the book of Enoch out of the didn't make it a canonized part of the Bible, as I understand it. Is that how you understand it?
Well, they did several councils of Nicaea under Constantine. It was to take out certain things. One of them was to take out reincarnation, which was pretty obvious. They call it transmutation of the soul yet. That word didn't exist back then. But they can't take it out completely because there is like certain things stated in the Bible that for when Christ was to come, that certain person would be there at that time who was already passed on, and Christ was asked, if you are the Son, I'm just paraphrasing a lot here, then why is this person not here? And he goes, he is here, but he's so and so now. So it's
You
shown
did
that
say it
on
that way.
the
I didn't remember saying it that way. Wow. The evolution of soul, so that like if your soul, you got to experience a life down here making choices and under different circumstances, and then maybe the next time you were in a wealthier or more poverty-stricken circumstances, and how did you behave? Because in the end, the whole thing in my mind is started in Job 1 with Satan having a little conversation with God about Job, because he had to provide a choice for us. It's all about a choice. We either choose relationship with our creator or we reject creation with our creator. And our creator wants only people that have chosen to get to know him, to spend eternity in his presence in heaven. And it would contaminate heaven if you had people up there that were hateful or unforgiving. That's why I think forgiveness is under talked about in the Christian religion. You have to not only forgive others, you have to ask for forgiveness for all the things you've done wrong, but also you have to forgive yourself for all the things you've done wrong. And because I can't imagine you coming over to visit me at my mansion when we get to heaven, Gene, and still be upset about somebody who wronged you down here on earth. It's antithetical to what I would think heaven would be. What do you think about all that?
um, that's a long discussion. So that's like eight decodes. So I think it's the book of Malachi, and we have that decode on my website of the reincarnation decode. So it goes into that. It makes it pretty darn obvious. There's a lot of places you can find it, and there are no people, you know, it's antithetical because the reason they pulled it out was because the slaves were committing suicide to have come back as a better life. And so, they're losing their slaves. I wanted to go back into the sons of the angels, which are what are called homocarpensis. If you look at the Rockefeller, uh, mostly not the Rockefellers, but they show it a little bit, but the Rothschilds, they have very tall, long skulls. And if you look at the skull itself, their sutures in the skull are in different places than on Homo sapiens, and so yeah, they're not the same species. They're not even close, and they have no compassion and no love. They're not capable of those emotions. So that's why Christ said, you're literally the seed of the serpent, and you're vipers and thieves and all of that stuff, and he doesn't recognize them. They can't come to him. All of that. So we see that who set up Israel in the first place was through the transfer agreement, which is the Balfour Agreement, signed by Hitler himself. And so at that time, they were setting it up, and it's supposed to never be invasive to the Palestinians. Of course, that's never the case. And they were told way back when they were up in the Pontic Steppes. They're called the name changers because they were killing people on the Silk Road that goes to China and taking their identities, and then causing all kinds of havoc in the home countries and in China. And so the czar at that time said, you have to pick one of the three Abrahamic religions. And they picked the Jewish religion. And they never really, they just altered it and put in all of the Baal worship and all that straight into it, but appeared to be Jewish. So
Yeah, that's
most,
what it is.
they're not,
Kind of
they're
like a
not,
Jew. It's ish.
yeah, they're not really Jewish. And they became the Pharisees and all of that by the time of Christ's time, and that's why he was saying what he was saying. And he was saying that Israel is not a place; it's a way of, essentially, a way of being. And so that's what we're looking at today, and why that's the home of all this. And all the leaders have gone through this on many presentations before. In Israel, are not Hebrew. They don't have the same genetics. They don't even the names they have. They changed their name when they got in power and went to Israel and got in power. So it doesn't matter if you're talking Netanyahu or Smotrich or whoever you're talking about.
Yeah,
That's not where
none
they're.
of the prime ministers have their original
No,
Eastern
they're.
European,
Yeah,
Polish,
a
Ukrainian
lot of
names.
them, of course, are Ukrainian.
Yeah.
Because that's where they came from. The Pontic Steppes are in Ukraine, and that's why there's the mess that there is in Ukraine too. And so, they came out of that. They landed first and came to be in Ukraine, and so and
When
all
you
of
say
that stuff.
landed, what do you mean by landed?
The species, the species.
That
So
developed from the fallen
you
angels
got
and
Homo
the babies?
carpensis, which are the offspring of the angelics,
Okay, okay.
the fallen angelics, and human women. And then you have a species that landed in the Pontic Steppes that is a non earthbound species that are called uh, uh, the name changers, or they're called the Khazarian Mafia. So they're not Homo carpensis. They're another species, another crypto, hidden species on Earth that aren't originally from here. They're from a star system in which they blew up their two homeworlds. It's called Scion. Now they call it Zion. They renamed it to hide, the facts of everything where they are. And the two homeworlds are Ariana and Na. So it later became Aryan and Na, Nazi. So that's how they mutated it down. And so each side switched who's who too. So the Vikings and that was the tall blonde ones are actually not the Aryan, but the Na. And then the ones that look like the mustache man in World War II, that led to the entire conflict. He is actually Aryan, but he took on being an Nazi. So it's to keep things confused and keep a hiding in plain sight, so to speak. And so this is how they do it. So it's that's the kind of thing that Trump has to do to be able to get all this stuff done. So like he keeps saying in the UN, he just recently said it again. Your countries will be destroyed if you keep trying to go after climate change as a real thing. It's fake, and this fake green new stuff. And also, if you don't get rid of the massive amounts of illegals in your country, and it's like now, the head of Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, a lot of them are like Fico and Orban, and are coming out and saying very simple: we don't build places for them to be other than to be shipped out. Just get them out, and I love, the head of Poland said, President of Poland said, I love my country and I love Europe, and I don't want it to be Islamic. I don't want it to be Sharia law. I don't want it to be anything but Poland. and it's a Christian nation, and I don't want it to be an African nation or whatever, something from somewhere else. And so it is being noticed. And then also if people were to research the truth about, for example, solar panels or windmills. Windmills can't stand still for very long, so they have little generators that run on diesel that power a motor to turn the windmill every now and then. So it's actually, in constructing it, you use more high high level materials from hydrocarbons, oil, in other
How did
words.
we ever get
And then it's
suckered into
not recyclable, and then it's not really giving you more energy than you're putting into it. It's giving you less energy than you have to put in to keep the thing up, able to be running. It's why you go by
don't
these
even
huge windmill farms and you don't see them moving most of the time, one or two, and you got a massive amount. Same thing goes now. I've learned the same thing with the solar panels, that if you have solar panels on your house is acting like an inverter, and it's changing the electrical field inside the house to the reversed ion structure that your body would be healthy at.
Ooh.
So,
So it's literally
yeah,
unhealthy to have solar panels?
yes, yeah, that's recently come out too. And then they're not recyclable either. And then additionally, they have a limited shelf life, so to speak. But at the same time, you wind up, the investment you do, wind up selling power to the power company, and they send it back to you, and in the long term, you don't wind up on the plus side of any of that. It's all part of it's like a washing machine again. It's a money laundering system. So, it's for people to get educated. The same thing I came out a long time ago about lighting. So if you look at street lights, they're now mostly LEDs, and car lights are LEDs. That's actually bad for your night vision as well as your DNA. It's really bad on the DNA, but it's also bad for your night vision. So if you have regular incandescent lights, it doesn't change the structure of the DNA. It doesn't do resonance to the DNA that changes the structure. Just like in Russia, they outlawed microwave ovens a long time ago because it changes the structure of the food to where it's not really edible food anymore. It's rotated the molecule bindings of the hydrocarbons, so that, like trans fats, that's when you change the angle and of the binding of the hydrocarbons, and so it's no longer, it has the same chemical formula, but it no longer acts the same in the body. And so in that's why they banned all this stuff in Russia, like
What
GMO
if,
and
I want to talk about these incandescents versus the LED lights again.
uh-huh.
I've got one LED light because I got it so that I paint. I'm an artist and I wanted to have, well, I like to paint at night a lot of times. And I needed something to show me enough natural light to paint because if you're a painter, you know that light is very, very important. And it's LED, but I don't like it. And I have to go. It's so hard to find incandescent light bulbs because they outlawed them several years ago. Is Trump doing anything, or do you know if they're going to change that? Or
RFK has come out uh, and stated all of what I just said, and you
really?
can't now get them.
Yeah, but it's like it's harder to find. I go to
Oh
Home
yeah,
Depot, they don't even have them. But
oh
maybe
yeah, you've got to order them.
yeah. But then even when I've ordered them, they give me those little candle looking ones and like 60 watts. It's important that we get rid of those. There's so many weird. So do you think we're ever going to see this Tesla free energy that I've been hearing so much about for so many years?
Actually, they're putting information out. You look at the statements of his staff, of Trump's staff, and of NASA and other places, and they're saying we can send ET home. We have technology that can bend space and time. All these statements, and I highly believe and feel that it's extremely likely that during this term, towards the end of it, or at least shortly after that, into whoever's next, or if it's Trump through some uh, way of going back to the fact that he's actually, the way the Organic Act and all that. So anyway, just say it that way, just to say it.
That he has already taken down the corporate United States, all capital letters, that was established with that Organic Act of 1871, which didn't take effect until 1878. That I've heard that he's done that, but it's almost like they've got the old corporate system, and then they're sliding the new system in over, and then at some point they're just going to say, "Hey, the old system's gone."
Yeah, I feel that's exactly what's going to happen. There'll be, along with the Fed and the IRS and all that other stuff. So it's, slowly progressing so people realize it. Like he brought the tariffs back in, and I was been saying that for 35 years that the U.S. was fine, actually extremely wealthy. We had so much money, we didn't know what to do with it when we didn't have income tax and we didn't have the Fed, and we had gold-backed money and silver-backed money, and we had our, a real financial system, and we ran on tariffs.
Yeah.
And
So
instead of, we actually run on debt now. The whole world, most of it, runs on debt except the BRICS nations. So you can see the difference is that's why the tariffs and all the sanctions and all that on Russia didn't work that well, because when you have a real financial system that's asset based or gold and silver backed, your economy is very resilient, and you can survive a lot of things that a normal economy would not be able to survive, because a debt based economy, through what's called fractionalized banking, it's just you're living on future debt, and it's just it just grows and grows forever, and it's amazing it has never collapsed up to this point. But when they bring it down, or however they allow it to come down, I know they've already built the system to replace it, and it'll probably roll into, it's the same thing with you saying they're all against BRICS, just like he is with Russia as my friend. I don't like him, I do like him. It's going to be rolled in together as part of the whole worldwide financial system. So you see BRICS starting to move towards their own financial instruments, all the different things you need. And
do you
so,
think there's a chance that he might be waiting until Thanksgiving to announce some of the stuff as the big
I
thing?
don't think he works like that. The alliance doesn't work on dates like that. It's moves and counter moves. So what they've done is they've gamed this out. So when they're waiting for the cabal to do certain moves, they use those moves as a counter move. It's
Okay.
like what I do mostly when I do martial arts and I fight somebody for real in the street or something. If somebody attacks me, I wait. I wait for their attack, and I use their attack against them.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's the same thing. You learn their field of what they can do, their
Mhm.
techniques, etc. A lot of times I won't take the first, second, or third attack. I'm watching how they move. How do they have sets? What do they have? A show. Something they show what their move's going to be for each type of move, different things, and so they have already gamed this all out. The alliance, the same thing. So they know the different things that the cabal is going to do. So when they do that, they already have used that to flip against them, like they did with Butler, like they did with, they flip it against the cabal. So they use it to further what the alliance needs to bring out, like they did with the shutdown. That was massive. They knew they were going to shut down years and years and years ago. And they wound up getting rid of things they could never have gotten rid of if the government had been in session. But with it being shut down, now it's under the military and continuity of government, and you can do a lot because the military is in charge of everything. We know that the military is the only way, so a massive amount of fraud and waste and abuse and programs have been revealed and shut down. And I mean, most people have no idea of how much was done during that shutdown. It is phenomenal, and it's only temporarily taken care of till January, and we may go right back into it again. And it's the same thing with allowing the steal of the 2020. That was allowed. They didn't do like they did in 2016 when he got in, is flip the votes that they flipped back to Trump. With Hillary, they flipped them, and then the alliance and the military flipped it back with Biden, they did not.
Plus, I don't you think that the 4 years of the fake Biden, the auto pen administration, that also helped them accomplish a lot of things behind the scenes that they needed the extra time. I don't think that he could have done what I think they're doing, which is to take down the deep state and to restore our republic to what we thought it was, and to usher in a brand new financial system. I'm hoping and praying that the med beds or something, and to heal people and to bring out hidden technology. I don't think that they could do that in just 8 years. I think they needed more years to do it.
You
What
know,
do you think?
I totally agree because when the day he comes in, he's got hundreds of executive orders, and there's classified executive orders we haven't even seen. And
Oh,
so
really?
he's signing hundreds and hundreds of on the first day. That means they're fully researched, fully written, ready to go on that day. It's not like you sit there and they whip all this out while he's winning the thing. You know, it's already done.
Yeah.
And so this is already, all of it's already done. Everything's done. You know,
It's like, he
right.
patterned his book, The Art of the Deal, after Sun Tzu's Art of War. And one of the
Yeah.
main principles that I read his book, Art of the Deal. I didn't read Sun Tzu's Art of War, but one of the biggest things is you want your opponent to think they are just about to win right before you rip the rug out from under and they lose. Isn't that right?
Well, you actually make them think they won.
Oh, they've
And then
won. Oh, completely
you know,
won.
they've won, but they've actually lost. You've already won before the
Oh,
battle starts.
that gives another look to this. Yeah,
You
that's
you've
interesting.
actually won the battle before it even starts. That's why, just like I was saying before, I'm studying my opponent. When I do my counter, I don't normally have to do anything after that. It's very rare I've ever had to do anything. In fact, I can't remember a single time in a real life situation that I got attacked that I had to do anything after
Your
I've
initial
analyzed
move
their attacks. I do my
response.
counter to that. They're done.
They're
That's it. The fight is over, and it's over like in so fast that most people can't even see what happened. You know, because that's how it works. Well, the same thing's happening here. It's already happened so fast we haven't seen it because it's kept out of the public eye, and then it's going to be shown as if it's live in real time. The arrests, the executions, most of those are already happened. We already know that Biden was executed, a lot of other people, and then we're going to see it. You know, we all saw the gallows being built outside the White House and all of that. So big, huge platform. What was
Yeah,
that?
he did it both years. He did it in 2020 when the election was stolen, they were built. And then he did it again when he was about ready to get in here in 2025. I thought they were like platforms. I watched him on that live cam that's in front of the White House, build him and then take him down. I thought it looked like they must be, in their excuse was that they were going to put the press up there so that they could videotape or so that they could record the momentous moment when the first female vice president walks in the front door of the White
Yeah,
House in 2020.
exactly.
But
And at the same time, it sure didn't look like that's what that is to me.
it looks like gallows. It does. It
It
does
did.
totally, totally, totally. And one gal who had been trafficked as a through the porn industry, I can't remember. She, anyways, became a Christian and a mom. She decided to sue her traffickers, who are all these top level, VIP type people.
Uh,
And the good guys, the white hats, found out about it and asked her if she would testify against and these other people. So she went out there and she said that she had her testimony inside the vacant White House because they never let Joe Biden in the White House. And so many people think that he was let in the White House. They never let him in the White House.
yeah. Same as he never got the football.
Oh yeah, no, no. But did you just love when he's showing bin Salman from Saudi Arabia around and he's like, "Well, here's a picture of me when I got elected for my term from 16 to 20. And here's a picture of the auto pen and here's my picture for this term."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
Picture of
he's
Biden
probably
and a
the
picture of his
greatest.
auto pen.
Yeah, he's the greatest troll of all time. This Trump for sure.
Oh,
So yeah,
he's got a great sense of humor.
yeah, yeah, he does.
He's amazing, and And I'll never forget, he was very, very kind to my dad. And my dad was the first member of the Trump National Golf Course in Bedminster, New Jersey. And despite he was driving around and he said, "Wow, they're making a country club out of the DeLorean's old mansion." So he went up there and started in then asking around, and the guy put him on the golf cart and drove him around, showing him where the golf course was going to be. And he said, "Well, are you taking any memberships yet?" And because they were just building it. And he got Trump on the phone, apparently. So Dad became the first member, but it wasn't until years later that he met him in the men's grill. My dad was eating by himself, and he just was really good friends with all the people that worked there. And they were talking about a golf pro who had left and gone on the tour. Dad heard him talking about him. And he chimed in, and Donald was so nice. He came over and asked my dad if he could sit down with him, and they had a nice chat, got to know each other. And anyway, he was very nice, and helped my dad out later. And when he was anyway, just a great guy. And I get upset when people get upset with him, but they're just believing the fake news. They're not trusting what's really happening. And I think he was recruited because I learned about the generals in 2013. What do you think about Q?
Um, I think it's a operation, intelligence operation to wake people up to get, when it first came out as Make a Q, they didn't have individual posts. It was just questions every day of extremely high classification levels on 4chan. And I saw that, and then that was 2014 that came out. Yeah, so I was like,
Oh,
wow.
that's great. I didn't know it went back that far. I thought it just went back to 2017, October.
Well, that was called Mega Q. I wish I had kept the post, screen copied it. I didn't think of it at the time because it seemed like some kind of weird anomaly to me at the time. So it's like whoever this is posting this or whatever group's posting this, they have one heck of a high clearance because there's stuff in here that very few people know.
Well,
So I
the
was like,
story that my vet friend said, I was just unconsolable after Obama got reelected in early, I think it was like January 2013. He said he and this other military veteran that I knew had been called back east to meet with these generals, and that they had a plan to expose how incredibly corrupt and evil Obama was. And I'm like, great, can't happen fast enough. And he said, "Oh, Lisa, you have no idea how amazing, how corrupt he really is." And I said,
yeah,
"Well," and I thought I did, but I had no idea about all this evil stuff.
yeah.
And
I mean, it's with it now coming out, all the recordings like where he slipped and he said, Mike and I, Michael and I, or he slipped and said my Muslim faith, my Islamic faith, and then the person that's interviewing him says, "You mean your Christian faith?" Yes, my Christian faith.
I found out I just decided to do a cable access television show. I didn't have a topic, and so a friend of mine said that there was some information out there that this new guy that just got elected president, and we're talking November of 2008, might not be a natural born citizen. So I thought, oh well. I asked my co-host. I said, "Can you look this up online and see if you can find out any information?" And we did a whole show on why he's not a natural born citizen, several reasons why he's not a natural born citizen. His dad was an American citizen at the time he was born. He was actually born in Mombasa, Coast Providence General Hospital in Mombasa, Kenya. All these things. And I didn't think anything of it, posted it on YouTube, and all of a sudden it's going viral. And within like the first week, it went up to like 20,000 views. This is 2008. Not very many people were on YouTube then. And then the next thing I know, I was not allowed to do anything on my channel. I wasn't allowed to monitor my comments. I wasn't allowed to change my description. I couldn't do hardly anything. I think I could change my description. And that was in 2008. That video still has just 21,000 views because and I was freaked out. And then he gets reelected. So this guy tells me that. Then I move here and I can't talk to them because the guy was from Oregon. And then I heard from a pastor and from Jerome Corsi the same story that they were going to take out Obama with the coup, and that cooler heads prevailed, and that they decided to recruit Donald Trump to run as a president and not and do it that way without making it too disruptive on the people.
Along with the other things that Trump is doing that most people don't really know the significance, is tearing down the part of the White House that he did. It breaks the satanic or Masonic sigils of DC that actually control the energy structure of the entire United States. So in doing that, that used to be a swimming pool, and then they just covered over the top of it. And we know from the Gettysburg, what with the pictures and things, the wet works they do with children in the swimming pool there. Same thing here. And there was a ninth circle sacrifice area in the tunnels under there. When they tore it down, they found lots of tunnels and more tunnels. And so they've gotten and rescued a lot more young people from there as well. But additionally, it's breaking the sigils, which is the most important thing, that you have a pentagram, and you have the owl and the Masonic square and all of that stuff, and the Tau cross, all of these satanic symbols. And also it has what's called the keystone, which is in a Masonic build. When they build a building with great Masonic pomps and circumstance and big show, and they all come out in their regalia, and they lay the first stone. It's set in a very precise way, in a very precise place, on ley lines to influence the energy of the entire, in this case, the entire continent and the entire country. Well, that's now gone. That is now gone. That is destroyed, completely gone. That's why they wanted to impeach him. And so, because it changes the energy structure for the entire country, it gets us out of this.
Does it affect the Schumann resonance?
At least for this whole area of this side of the world, the whole Western Hemisphere, yeah. So you're talking a massive, massive change. It gets it back to where it should be, instead of having that overtone on it of slavery.
Was there a big day that it was destroyed when they were doing the construction that we can look to that were like the energy level around that we might have noticed or anything?
I didn't think of that. It would be interesting. Somebody listening could research into that and see if that is
Compare it with a Schumann resonance for that day.
Yeah, see if there was a large effect to the resonance structure at that day. So it is, I've gone over this, and there's a lot on social media that people that go and show the changes in the structure, where it broke the different lines that DC is laid out on. So that's, all these things that most people think are something small or something, an anomaly, that Trump's doing. He doesn't do something for no reason or just for show. There's show to it, but it's for very precise reasons. Everything he does has a lot of things. So if we look what's going on with Maduro and Venezuela and Colombia and all of this, and people are saying, he's hitting these drug boats. There was a drug submarine too, and it could be just fishermen. I'm sorry, you don't understand the level of surveillance that the United States military has. I mean, even when I retired in '94, we did an op with Russian submarines out of Hawaii. When I was stationed there, several different submarines, and before one of our ops, I was looking at satellite surveillance in Vladivostok at their sub base, and I was seeing the topside watch reading Pravda. Well, you're not supposed to read on watch, and he was reading, and it was raining and at night. So when that submarine tied up next to ours in Pearl Harbor, he was the same guy on topside watch. I could recognize him. If I read Russian, I could have read what he was reading. And I went up, asked permission to come on board, and I went up and I said, "You're a bad boy." he goes, I go, "You speak English, of course, first?" And he said, "Yes." He goes, "Why? You're reading on watch. I saw you." He goes, "What?" I told him where and when. It was raining at night. How can you know? surveillance.
Well, what camera was? Do you had a camera inside the submarine?
No, satellite surveillance. Satellites can see through rain and night.
Oh,
And you
wow.
can read the prescription little tiny words on a bottle of pills from space at night in a rainstorm.
Well, why do they need P3 Orions and sub hunters? I know people that pilots those. Why do they need them if they've got these satellites that can see that closely? Because that's what I was
Um,
told they
you
did.
don't see a submarine underwater.
Oh, okay. So
You
that's what
find
they
it
need.
other ways.
So
There's
that's
other
what
technology on there that they can find the submarine.
med beds. Do you know anything about med beds or anything that's going to happen with that or healing?
Well, I'm hopeful too, like you. I could certainly use one.
Okay.
Um,
And what about Tesla free energy? You think that's going to
that
be
I
some?
think would is likely to be coming out. But again, it's all having the only people that are going to be able to answer the when of anything aren't allowed to. You're talking to people that know the plan, and people are giving up. We've heard these dates on and over for the last how many years, and they've none of them almost at all have ever come about. So I'm just saying I see it is likely to be coming out in the near future. In other words, in this decade.
Is the way you see it and read it. I was listening to you on another show and about how they've adjusted the timelines, and then the timeline that we're on right now, we it's going to end well for us.
Um, Exceedingly
In what
beyond what people can even imagine. When
wonderful.
this all this is done and the world is clean from this Satanism and all of this, humanity has not had freedom in millions of years.
Millions?
Millions.
Whoa.
They have had no freedom at all. They've had an illusion of freedom. You're like a free range chicken that has a fence around it. It can run around the farm, but it really can't get outside the farm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So with all the technology, where they were heading, that the alliance couldn't have acted any later at all, but they had to act. And certain things they were so close, but they were trying to do it with Kennedy. They didn't have the technology to be able to do it with Kennedy. So now with Trump, they can, but it made it necessary to have things like warp speed happen, and they have, from my understanding now, technologies to reverse all of that. Depending on how far down the line somebody is, of course, if they're dead, you're not going to reverse that. But how far it is. But
I wonder about that. If what I've heard is it's very much like that movie, Fifth Element or whatever. That
all that. But to go back to what I was saying with the jab and all that, they were going to lock down the world permanently, put everybody in. They weren't going to be called FEMA camps. They had them all built and ready to go. They were going to be called,
quarantine.
quarantine camp. Thank you. Yes, quarantine camps, like you saw in China and some in Australia too. And that would have gone into the entire world for at least 10 years. And then they would be rolling out jab after jab after jab after jab, with more and more tech, more and more control. And then you wind up on digital currency, and then you would wind up completely, every hooked up to the net in the cloud, and everything for everyone on the entire planet. That was their plan, and to reduce the planet down to their 500 million that they wanted, as per the Georgia Guidestones. That was their plan. So when Trump threw the monkey wrench in that with warp speed, people don't understand. Why did he do that? And look at what it did, and how many are dying, and all of this. Yeah, the other option would be 500 million people left on Earth, and no freedom. You don't even have freedom of thought.
Yeah,
And
and he did promote hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin and stuff that actually does help. So,
yeah, that
um,
was his jab. Absolutely. That was
yeah,
what he said works. People don't remember. And he said, okay, you want this? here it is. So he forced them to go way faster than they could. So they had to use a lot of saline solution and other things. But
Yeah, most people got the saline solution. They're just going to be just fine. Unfortunately, I know people that went and hog wild and decided they wanted a booster or another booster or another booster, and their health was very much negatively affected.
of course, the other problem is the shedding, which is the
Oh
big
yeah,
thing why I could use a med bed is the shedding is massive. So
yeah.
I have learned recently about there are things that help a lot. So
Do you
there's
know? You want to share them with the audience?
sure, done it before. So Dr. Mahalcia, Mihalcea, has two books called Transhuman. Transhuman 2 in the back, she has a protocol using things like EDTA and several high levels of vitamin C and other things that help to get a lot of that out. She shows slides of actual pictures with contamination and before and after results doing this. And you can find local places that you can have most of what she does done in if you're near a big city, you
Yeah,
can
in
get.
regenerative medicine, yeah, my son had to do that because he had 9 times the healthy level of lead in his body and 8 times the healthy level of mercury in his body as after he was forced to take what they called the hepatitis B shot again in high school, 2014. I think they might have been testing this stuff. He never had a seizure before in his life, and now he has seizures regularly. Grandma, it's just a nightmare. But he did do EDTA IV treatments. He did 20 of them and he got down to half the way for the lead and almost normal for the mercury. He did 10 more and now he's normal. All his heavy metals are gone. So that it can be taken out with EDTA. You can take it orally and it can pills, I guess, too, but the faster way is to take it with these like hour and a half. They're not fun. It's not exactly a pleasant experience, IV treatments, but have you heard about that?
Yeah, yeah.
So, well, I think if they know how many people have been in and have been shed on and injured, like you, and maybe I have too, I don't know.
My advice to anybody listening would be to not operate in a vacuum of knowledge, to go find a doctor in your area that has a dark field microscope, to get a drop of your blood and have it looked at under the microscope and see how you are.
Yeah, and Dr. Artis says to get a D-dimer test. A D-dimer test tests whether or not you've got clotting.
Yeah, but this will show the nanotech and everything else.
Oh, it's called a black microscope,
No, dark field microscope.
dark field microscope. Okay.
Yeah,
And to have
yeah.
that checked to see if there's stuff going on. So many people are suffering negative results from taking it or being shed on. And they're saying that I heard one report recently that a lot of people are going to be starting to fall off and die just in the next few years, even though it's been about 5 years since they took it, and so they're going to have to come out with this med beds and something to help people. And they're going to have to start telling everybody about what's really going on and in this thing. I don't see it going on into 2027. I mean, obviously it's going on in 2026, but what do you think about, I mean, the long range, or can you give any sort of, I know you can't give dates, but I mean, when would you say like a range that you expect? This is just your opinion.
Within 10 years, I would think.
Well, I hope it's as soon as possible. I mean, everybody's like, so
So,
it's taking so long.
anyway,
Why is it taking so long? Well, if you just like you said, it takes millions of dollars. Oh, there it is. Great. Thank you.
so what you're seeing is a slide in a blood, drop of blood under a dark field microscope. And this is clotted blood, and this is a factory that's building all kinds of chips and stuff. You can see it in the blood and chips, and a lot of these little things are nanotech. They blink blue, green, and red, and then these polymer fibers, people call it microplastics, they're actually like antennae they communicate with the cloud with. The glow you see around it is the electromagnetic energy that is robbed from the blood. That's why it's all clotted. And so the EDTA and the vitamin C and the black X and all the other stuff in the back of her book, number 2, actually goes into it. But that's the electricity from the person's blood, whoever this was. So there is what I was referring to.
Whoa. Whoa. So how does that affect, how does, how would the person who's suffering with that feel? Was the ramifications of it and it manifest as,
Pretty bad. It depends on how bad you are, but I think that personally, I would think that anybody that lives near people at all that are vaccinated um, for the C-19 are going to have that situation.
yeah, it's just, yeah, but they might have gotten the placebo. A lot of people got the placebo. There's no way that some people,
You're still going to have the shedding.
oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So we all need to worry about that. Well, thank you. Let me end this in prayer real quick. And thank you so much for Jean. And I look forward to hopefully having you on again and getting some more of your insights. It's always wonderful to get your decodes. Just a total treasure to the whole truth movement that's out there trying to get the word out to the people. So, dear Heavenly Father, we ask you to help us, to guide us with our knowledge, and give us patience to know what to look for and be understanding and forgiving to all those that are upsetting us, understanding that they are spiritually handicapped. We have no idea what sort of trauma or issues the enemy has sent to them that's making them negative, Lord. And we ask you to help us with our forgiveness of other people, forgiveness of ourselves. And of course, we all want to ask for forgiveness for our own sins and what in return get the gift of the Holy Spirit to communicate with you one on one in a unique fashion. The only way that we could talk specifically between two individuals, because the two individuals relating to each other are always unique because the uniqueness of each individual relating. And we thank you for all that. And we ask you to guide Gene as he seeks to get the truth out to as many people as possible. And we thank you for all the insights that you've given him, and hopefully will continue to give him and to give me too, and all those that are watching. We ask you to bless all those that are watching and give everyone a discernment and the calm and the peace that passeth all understanding. This we pray in your precious Son, Yeshua HaMashiach's name. We give you all the praise and all the glory. All right. Thank you so much. And we'll see you again next time.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.
God bless.
God bless you.